God damn, Florida is wild, dude. Florida man, he is the hero that Florida deserves, but not the one it needs right now, which sounded really cool when Commissioner Gordon said it about Batman, regardless of whether or not the statement itself makes any sense. I don't think I've seen Batman. I saw Batman. Wait, the Christian Bale Batmans, which were awesome, but I don't. Oh, I saw Batman versus Superman. It was terrible. And I love Batman and Superman. I like Superman. And I say that I've not seen these things, but when I was a kid, I watched The New Adventures of Superman, like Lois and Clark or whatever it was called. Love that shit. Smallville, love that. Any of the original Superman movies? Never seen them. Batman, love those Christian Bale movies, but that's all I know. That's all I know. Normally in these episodes, we talk about a Florida man getting up to all kinds of stupid shit, and usually shit that's illegal. After all, what's more entertaining than taking 20 or 30 minutes out of your day to laugh at some criminal stupidity? But while those are the stories we talk about the most, crime isn't always the basis of Florida man stories. Okay. Yeah, but it often is, though, Kevster, isn't it? Format of the show, by the way. Kevin writes it, I read it. That's what we do here. So today, rather than laughing at dumb criminals, we will instead be celebrating the heroic exploits of Florida man. Holy shit, okay. I mean, we're going a different direction. It did say this was Florida Man episode 18, so I guess we're just going deep in that barrel, scraping the floor. Don't worry, though, it still should be pretty clear from the headlines that these stories could only have happened in Florida. For example, Florida man drives over alligator to save neighbor. It's no secret that I'm not a fan of dogs for a whole lot of reasons. Wait, I don't know if Kevin's talking about, but Kevin is also not. Me neither, Kevin. We have that together. It's no secret that I'm not a fan of dogs for a whole lot of reasons. Cats may be largely indifferent to my existence, but they also require essentially no maintenance to keep as pets. They're usually really good at killing any mice that may sneak into the house too, although admittedly my current cat is a lazy piece of shit who is failing to pull her rather considerable weight when it comes to hunting. My uncle had a cat that was so fat. I think it's dead now. It must be dead now. It was, because it was fat. This wasn't a long time ago. It's just this enormous cat that was so fat, it kind of ran with both of its back legs at the same time in some sort of weird hobble. It was just enormous cat. And I'm not just thinking, oh, it's really furry. It was fat. It was properly fat. But at least she doesn't need to bother me every time she wants to go to the bathroom. Such was not the case for Florida man Rick Fingerit, who was out one Friday night in April this year walking his two pet dogs. Thanks to his dogs and their inability to use a litter box, Rick put himself directly in the path of an 11-foot-long alligator. The dogs were powerless to help Rick against the massive alligator, which clamped its jaw down on his leg and began dragging him to a nearby pond. God damn, Florida is wild, dude. He's just out for a walk with his dogs, and the next thing you know, he's like, oh God, I'm getting eaten by a alligator. Florida, dude. The holidays, the time of year when we all scramble to find that perfect gift. It's practical, one that's thoughtful, won't get re-gifted next year. Well, with shoes, they'll be the wrong size for anyone who wants to just joking. With shoes like Vessies, you'll never want to re-gift them because they're Vessies, the best shoes ever made, in my opinion. Since Vessi started sponsoring me years ago, I've not worn anything else. These are their Stormbursts. There's the high top version, which is not this. This is the high top version. And as with all Vessies, they are waterproof. And that's not just like sort of waterproof, water resistant. They are waterproof. Like you could put it up to here and it would be the same as a rain boot. Like imagine as if it was covered in rubber or plastic or whatever, except it's not, and it's breathable and it's comfortable thanks to Dymatex. The water just splashes off it. It's incredible. Look, these high tops are perfect for like super wintry days. It was snowing this morning. I wasn't wearing these. I've got a pair of white ones, which I was wearing, and yeah, it was snowing outside, and I'm like, that's perfect. Low tops, also fantastic. It's a little bit milder. Maybe you don't need to keep your ankles just as warm, but these are also fantastic. They've also got that solid grip, just like the high tops on the bottom. They're super comfortable. They're just like, you don't really need to break them in. You put them on. They do feel a little bit tight when you first put them on, but that's intentional because they're like formed to your feet, but it doesn't take long at all. It's just great. They're just great shoes. There's nothing better than Vessies. This holiday season, skip the generic gift cards and give your loved ones something they'll actually use for just $99. That's a deal. You can grab a pair at Vessi.com. The person you're giving them to will thank you, or just get them for yourself because they're great. Fortunately, at that exact moment, Florida hero Walter Rudder appeared, happened to drive by, and see Rick on the ground waving his arms around. Walter stopped and got out of his truck, at which point he noticed, because of course it was a truck, at which point he noticed the giant alligator murdering his neighbor. Rick begged Walter to run the alligator over in the hopes that it would release its grip on him. That is some smart thinking, dude. If there's an alligator biting my fucking leg off and dragging me into the pond to do like a fucking death roll, I think I'll just be like, help, 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 I'm being eaten by an alligator. Not like, hey, mate, back your truck over this. That'll sort him out. So, Walter hopped into his truck and did just that. The plan worked and the alligator retreated back to the pond. Rick was taken to hospital and subsequently interviewed by reporters, during which time he made sure to state that his 2 dogs never left his side during the attack. Wait, it's like, oh yeah, these dogs never left my side. What about the fucking dude who ran over the thing in the truck, dude, and saved your life? How about you thank him rather than your dogs who are probably just like, dude, I don't know, this guy feeds me, I'm not leaving. Either I'm going to go home and he's going to feed me, or I'm going to eat whatever the croc leaves. A lot of good they did by standing there, but maybe they just wanted to watch their owner die. He also stated that he doesn't know what would have happened if Walter hadn't been there to save him from the alligator. Well, good news, Rick. I know exactly what would have happened. Alligators are opportunistic ambush predators, so once it had you trapped in its jaw, it was going to drag you back underwater until you drowned. Yes, Rick, we know what would happen. You would fucking die, mate. Alligators can't chew their food, and humans are too large to swallow whole, so once you were properly subdued, aka dead, the alligator would then have performed its patented death roll to dismember your body. Whoa, that's what the death roll does? I thought the death roll was just to kill you, but it's to shake you into different pieces so that it can eat you.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It would then swallow whatever pieces of you it felt like eating in the moment, then hide what remained of your tattered corpse under a log or a tree to eat later. Well, Rick, now you know. You're welcome. It was a close call. And I'm sure Rick is now much happier knowing that's what was going to happen to him were it not for the timely arrival of his Florida hero. So you're welcome, Rick. And your dogs did nothing, Rick. They just stood there. Walter saved your life like a f***ing legend. Florida cat saves woman from house fire. It's an all too common story. An elderly person falls asleep, and while they're sleeping, their house goes up in flames. Stupid elderly people. In the past, these stories have typically been associated with people falling asleep while smoking. But for Florida woman Karen, Jesus Christ, McEacheron, the fire was caused by a candle instead. Karen had lit a candle in the bathroom of her mobile home in Port Orange, Florida, and she later fell asleep while watching TV, forgetting that the candle was still lit. Oh my God, I remember one time. I was at the cinema with my wife. This was years ago before we had kids. And we had like one of those Christmas, you know, the advent calendars that you light with candles. And at the bottom was just like these are a really bad idea because you got like dried holly and shit at the bottom of it. And then you have these candles and they'll just burn down. And then they get to this thing that's just basically kindling. And we're at the cinema. And it's like we're halfway through the movie and I'm suddenly like, oh, did you put out the candles on the advent calendars? My wife was like, no, did you? And we're like, no. So we're like, like, get the fuck out of the cinema. We're like racing home. And then they're just still burning and they're only like halfway down. But I'm like, God damn. I don't know if it would have set it on fire. But I was like, we don't have any more advent calendars like that. So we have them and then we light it and then we immediately put it out because we're like, we know we can't be trusted. Once the fire broke out, Florida hero Chewy, her pet cat, was quick to take action. Because mobile homes tend to be rather small, Karen's bed happened to be positioned right next to a counter covered in canned goods. Chewy jumped up onto the counter and started pushing the cans off the counter and directly into Karen in order to wake her up. By the time Chewy managed to wake Karen, her room was already filling with smoke. She quickly grabbed Chewy and her pet dog Stella, who didn't do a goddamn thing to help the situation, and fled through the front door. I'm beginning to think this episode is just about Kevin hating on useless dogs and their useless ways. According to Karen, the entire mobile home erupted in flames as soon as she opened the door. As she put it, the whole thing went whoosh. This is a nice way to put it. The firefighters who arrived on the scene made sure to note that Chewy saved Karen's life, as only a few more minutes inside and she would have died from carbon monoxide and smoke inhalation. Also, as soon as she left, the whole thing went whoosh. So she'd be cooked. And that's the entire story, so we can move on to the next entry. I'm definitely not trying to conceal any information because of my strong preference for cats over dogs. Okay, fine, I guess there's one other detail. The cat was just, they interviewed the cat, and it turns out, didn't give a shit. It was just interested in self-preservation. Even though all of the headlines about this story refer to Chewie as a hero cat, the reason the fire started in the first place may or may not be because Chewie was the one who knocked over the lit candle. Chewie was feeling guilty. Authorities seem pretty convinced that that's what's happened, but it's not like they have any video evidence or anything. Whatever. I never said the cats weren't assholes. I just said they're better than dogs. Kevin and I. Kevin, what a thing to be on the same page about. Everyone's gonna hate us. We can be hated together. Let's be pariahs together, Kevin. At least Chewie tried to fix his innocent mistake by saving Karen's life. All Stella did was sit on the floor like an idiot while all of this went down. Florida woman saves dog from alligator. Oh look, the dogs in our stories have gone from being totally f***ing useless to being the ones that need to be saved. So totally f***ing useless still, am I right, Kevin? But this will be the last pet in today's episode, I promise. Oh, I did think I'd stumbled into the pet episode, Kevin. Anyway, it was just a couple of months ago in September when Florida woman Del Bopple left her mobile home in Fort Myers to take her dog for a walk. The two walked near a pond in the mobile home community in which she lived. Does everyone in Florida live in a mobile home? What's going on?
I don't know.
And suddenly, Del had a gut feeling that something was wrong. She glanced at the ponds, and that's when she saw the eyes of a 7-foot alligator staring back at her. I was about to say that I've never known anyone who lived in a mobile home. And then I had the better thought to keep my mouth shut and not say that. But then I had the thought that I should say that because I thought it would be amusing. And now I'm realizing it's not amusing. And I've just done... What the fuck? Before she had a moment to think, the alligator launched itself out of the pond at the dog like a torpedo. The 84-year-old Florida hero tossed her Shih Tzu in the air. I just found out that's how you spell Shih Tzu. If someone asked me to write Shih Tzu, I wouldn't spell it like that, I'll tell you that. In the air and then began punching the alligator in the face. Holy shit. It took a bite out of her leg and hand, but she survived the attack and saved her useless dog in the process. While this is absolutely badass and any 84-year-old woman who punches an alligator in the face deserves recognition, for the love of God, don't try that at home. There was a nearly identical headline from a year earlier in which an 85-year-old Florida woman tried to save her dog from an alligator, and in that case, the alligator killed the woman. Yeah, I mean, she's 85. Of course, it's not like any of you needed me to tell you not to go around punching alligators, at least I certainly hope not. Well, it depends if you live in Florida or not, Kevin. Florida reporter rescues stranded driver from floodwaters. News anchors hate their news team's correspondents. Is that true? That's probably not true. What the f***? But whenever there's a bad storm, it certainly feels that way. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen a correspondent on TV standing in snow up to their neck while the snow is still coming down at like 4 inches an hour. And honestly, I've never understood the point of any of this. My house has windows. I can see how bad it is outside. If they're that determined to show how bad the roads are, then they can always just take some pictures or video from inside the news van. I think most people are able to understand the severity of weather conditions without the need to have it illustrated by genuine human suffering. One day there'll just be a news run and they'll be like, and now we go over to our correspondent at the eye of the storm. And it's like, over to you, Jeff. And then Jeff will just be sat inside the van in a t-shirt being like, well, Charlie, thank you. I decided not to leave the van today because it's really cold outside and in here we have heating. And then from that moment on, that's how all news broadcasts weather correspondents out there. It's like, well, I forgot the name I gave him. Frank's in the van. I'm in the van too. But news stations have been doing this for decades, so apparently I'm the idiot in this situation. Of course, when you have people out in the field during severe weather, it's all but inevitability that they're going to wind up filming next to someone in genuine distress. This is what happened to Florida hero and reporter in the field Tony Atkins while filming on location during Hurricane Ian, a storm that made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane in 2022. Tony had been reporting from a flooded intersection in Orlando where the water was several feet deep. There wasn't a lot of traffic at the time, what with all the flooding, but the crew was trying to direct traffic away from the intersection where they knew the water was particularly deep. They're directing it away from the intersection because they didn't need the background noise. No, they're actually trying to be helpful. That's nice. They didn't see when it happened, but an unnamed woman drove into the intersection, getting her car stuck for hours. As for why the woman was driving in these conditions, she was a nurse who was trying to get to work, so at least she had a good reason for being on the road, unlike most people in these situations. Yeah, I just assumed it was going to be like, I want to stay behind because I'll protect my property from this hurricane with my gun. And it's like, Well, you deserve to die. You deserved it. You deserve to drown horribly in your car and not be rescued. In fact, you deserve to die horribly in your car while people stand around you laughing.
No.
I'm just joking. Of course I'm just joking. Just save them. Who gives a shit? During a break, it's not their fault. They're just dumb. They're just really, really dumb. They're dumb to the point of it almost being a disability. During a break in filming, Tony walked over to the car, helped the woman climb out of her window and onto his back, and then carried her out to the intersection and back to where the street wasn't flooded. He saw the woman, and he was like, producer, what do you need? And they're like, we need about 5 more minutes from you. And then he's like, okay, just wait there. I got 5 minutes. Even though Tony wasn't on air when this happened, obviously someone recorded it and posted it online, it going viral. Things like this actually happen a lot too, like all the time. For the past few months alone, there are multiple instances of people being carried out of their cars during flooding by either strangers or news reporters. In one instance, a news correspondent who'd already called 911 to get help for a stranded vehicle cut his interview with the anchors short, saying, "I'm going to go and see if I can help that lady out a bit more. I'll be back."
Get back to you in a little bit. I'm going to go see if I can help this lady out a little bit more, you guys. I'll be back.
Fucking legends. Unfortunately, that story took place in Atlanta, though not in Florida. I thought I was going to read. Unfortunately, he died.
Why are you the way that you are?
He drowned. Jesus. He didn't. It just took place somewhere else. However, all this does is raise a question that's really been bothering me. The deepest floodwaters in any of these scenarios have been about 6 feet, and it's never been more than maybe 100 feet or so to an area of land that isn't submerged. I know most people aren't over 6 feet tall, so it's not like all of those stranded drivers could have walked to safety, but don't any of them know how to swim? Yeah, dude. I'd get out and I'd just go on my tippy toes. That'll be fine. Like, I'm nearly 6 feet. Just be like, but I can also fucking swim, bro. Florida man has road rage on the tarmac. You've seen Breaking Bad, Simon, so I know you're aware that air traffic control is an important and demanding job. I have seen Breaking Bad, I do know that. They have to keep everything moving in an orderly and efficient manner, guide planes around unexpected weather patterns, and talk to random civilians with no flight experience through the process of safely landing a commercial jet. You know, that thing that has happened in hundreds if not thousands of movies, despite literally never happening once in real life. Really? Shit. It's a good story though, isn't it? But as difficult as the job may be, imagine how much harder it would be for ground control to get everyone to taxi where they needed to go for takeoff while some arsehole was doing donuts all over the tarmac. No fucking shot. How did he get past the fences? That's exactly what happened earlier this June when 37-year-old Florida man Ryan Welch decided he was going to go for a little joyride. Ryan rammed his car through the fence outside Orlando International Airport. You're going to go to prison for like terrorism, dude. And absolutely went to town. Police were quickly called about the bizarre road rage incident while Ryan sped around the runways and taxiways. This shit's doing it. He's like living his GTA life, dude. However, he wasn't content with just driving around like an idiot. He wanted to run around like an idiot as well. Ryan, bro, he's got to be on meth or something, right? Ryan parked his car near one of the gates and got out. Maybe he thought he could board a plane, or maybe he thought he could use one of those movable staircase things to get to the gate and enter the terminal. We'll never know exactly what his plan was because he never got to it. You see, when something like this happens, people tend to get a bit jumpy. There's no way to know whether it's some random arsehole having a mental breakdown or if it's all part of an elaborate terrorist plot. It'd be pretty elaborate and stupid. Not wanting to risk the latter, an anonymous Florida hero who worked at the airport tackled Ryan as soon as he got out of the car. The Florida hero kept Ryan subdued until the police arrived and arrested him. He was charged with 3 felony counts for damage to the airport fence and for trespassing on the designated operational area of an airport, and he's scheduled to begin trial after I finish writing this episode, but before you all see it. Ryan was held on $20,000 bail, and according to some rather glib reporting, he didn't even bother to show up for his court date. It's less that he didn't bother, and more that his lawyer waived his right to attend on account of his mental health, so I think it's safe to assume what the defense is going to go with. I mean, also fair play. He seems pretty mental. Like, just what is he's just gone full GTA at the airport, dude. Florida man kidnapped at Walmart, rescued by McDonald's employee. Okay. This is a pretty bizarre story, but it absolutely is peak Florida. The only way it could be more of a Florida man story is if the McDonald's was a Waffle House and the kidnapper was a meth-addled alligator. But I digress. It was the Thursday evening in late February of this year when an unnamed 33-year-old Florida man went shopping at Walmart with his friend. He received a phone call from 29-year-old Florida woman Christina Arroyo, who asked where he was and if he needed a ride home. He accepted the offer, and once he finished his shopping, Christina pulled up in a U-Haul van along with 52-year-old Florida man Marcelo Asneo Garcia. The earlier reporting made it sound like Christina was a stranger who had approached the victim at Walmart asking if he wanted a ride before showing up in the U-Haul, which would have been sketchy as fuck, but the three of them were all actually roommates. Yeah, I assumed they knew each other. Who would assume that they didn't know each other? However, Christina didn't plan on taking the victim back to their apartment. Instead, she accused him of stealing her credit card. Marcelo then punched the victim and forced him inside the van. They drove to the victim's father's house, where Christina believed he had hidden the credit card that she claimed he stole. Why not just block the credit card? You don't need to go get it back. It's not cash. Just be like, yo, bank. Someone nicked my credit card. They'll block that shit faster than you finish that phone call. But nobody was home. All of this kidnapping made Christina and Marcelo a bit hungry, though, so afterwards they decided to stop at McDonald's.
Senpai, good job.
And for reasons unknown, they let the victim come in and get food as well. Seriously, guys, you already have your victim trapped inside a windowless van. I'm pretty sure it's kidnapping 101 just to tie him up in the back and leave him in the back while you go to get your food. I think they don't realize this is kidnapping. I think they're just like, oh, for fuck's sake, dude, get in the fucking car. And I don't want to get in the car. They force him in the car. And I was like, oh my God, what you thought was just you getting pissed and getting your credit card back is kidnapping. I don't think they knew it was kidnapping. I'd normally say that you just go to the drive-thru, but there's a good chance that there wasn't enough clearance for the van. Once inside the restaurant, the victim went to the restroom and tried to call the police. He knows he's being kidnapped, though, because apparently it didn't occur to Christina or Marcelo to take his cell phone either. I don't think they know they're kidnapping him. I don't think they think it's as serious as it is, or as serious as Marcelo seems to think it is. Marcelo caught him in the act, though, so he bit the victim and stole his phone. How very Florida. Back in the restaurant, however, the victim was able to make contact with an unnamed McDonald's employee. The Florida hero called 911, but Christina and Marcelo escaped before authorities arrived. Of course, seeing as they were roommates with the victim, it's not like they were terribly difficult to track down. Also, I realized that the hero in this story didn't do a whole lot, but this is such a Florida man story that I had to include it anyway. Christina and Marcelo were tracked down by the police, which again shouldn't have been very hard, and they were both charged with kidnapping. Marcelo received a parole violation as well, and Christina was also charged with sudden snatching. Ooh, that's an interestingly named crime. Battery, burglary, dealing in stolen property, organized scheme to defraud, and petty theft. God damn, dude. You got those rap sheets. So yes, it sounds like she'd been pretty busy. Oh yes, and although the victim's friend was a witness to the kidnapping, when police went to get a statement from him, the friend was arrested for possession of meth. But what else did you expect? This is Florida. That's where we end today's episode. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, dear audience. I mean, I'd get out and I'd just go on my tippy toes. That'll be fine. Like, I'm nearly 6 feet. Just be like...